I don't want to turn into like a David Pacman kind of webcam, but I wanted to do something a little bit different because this thing has been bugging me since Monday, and it, I've done the normal things that I would normally do to get something out of my mind and forget about it. But this particular thing just will not quit with my head because every time I look into this issue and um, do my own kind of research on it, the more and more questions I get, like, does this make sense? No, it doesn't. So why is this a thing? Um, and the saying that comes into my head: don't try to look for reason inside of madness because you won't. So for those that don't know, New York State passed a law on September the 26th, uh, banning the use of threatening to call ICE on someone or to say illegal alien, and you can be fined up to 250,000 for each case. Um, Now, this was brought up in my class in college for state and local government. Um, the professor in my class is brilliant. I don't know if he'll ever get to see this or not, but he's such an easygoing. He's a lawyer. He knows his stuff, and the way he put things is very easy to understand. Um, so hopefully, if he does see this, he can hopefully answer my question, or my questions. If not, one of the real lawyers. Like, how is this particular law constitutional with the United States? How is this law even allowed to exist for New York? Now, because I mean, once, I mean, don't get me wrong, no one likes hate speech, and even though there's no such thing, but um, this was introduced into class as a way to introduce the McCulloch and versus Maryland case, the thing with the federal bank and the state bank taxing each other. But the I looked into the directive of this particular law for New York. I the news report that the professor found was on the Washington website, news website, and I was like, well, they're not going to care as much as a paper from New York. They're not going to have as many details. So I went through all the New York posts. New York City being a city close to my heart, so I looked into this, um, and I also went to the actual passing of the bill. I went to the bill page, legislative page, and looked up the actual bill itself. And it does give hypothetical scenarios of where this law would apply. And even saying that, still, um, I'm left with wondering, how is this even constitutional? It does not make sense. Because my particular grievance is, how can you prosecute a feeling? This isn't like going out and causing a physical crime where you can see that this was done out of pure hatred. Um, this particular law requires and depends on you being able to prove a feeling. Um, Now, if someone comes into my place of business or into my home, and I'm having a really bad Monday, crappy Monday. I'm frustrated as hell and pissed off, and these people come into my store speaking a foreign language. And I said, "God damn it, can you speak English, please, so I can understand you? Because I have no idea what you're saying." Now, does that mean they can go run off and accuse me of this crime and? Because they think I said it out of hatred. How can they prove that I said it out of hatred compared to me just being annoyed and having a crappy day? Um, it makes no sense to me at all. So let's take a look first of all. One second. Let me get you onto So here we go. So the new report that I'm gonna bring up is from the New York Post. This particular one. City bans calling someone an illegal alien out of hate. It is now against the law in New York City to threaten someone with a call to immigration authorities or refer to them as an illegal alien when motivated by hate. Now, when I was first asked about this, I was like, yeah, this is great because New York City is kind of different from other cities in New York. New York is a city shared with the world. There's tons of people from all over the world coming to New York. I mean, hell, it's the home of the United Nations. The restrictions, violations of which are punishable by fines of up to $250,000 per offence, are outlined in the 29-page directive released by City Hall's Commission on Human Rights. I didn't want to make you sit through me read the entire directive because I'm not a lawyer and I don't think you would find that very compelling. Alien, used in many laws to refer to a non-citizen person, is a term that may carry negative connotations and dehumanize immigrants, making them as other, reads one passage of the memo. The use of certain language, including illegal alien and illegals, with the intent to demean, humiliate, or offend a person or persons constitutes discrimination. I kind of agree with that. I mean, I like the premise of the law itself. I mean, the dangerous rhetoric that was started by the Trump administration and the executive branch is dangerous. I get that. The directive goes on to list several examples of acts, and this is the main part I wanted to go over, you guys. Acts and comments that would run afoul of the restrictions, including harassing people over their accents or grasp of the English, or wielding the threat to call to immigrations and customs enforcement as a tool of hate. One example, a hotel prohibits its housekeepers from speaking Spanish while cleaning because it would offend hotel guests or make them uncomfortable, reads one hypothetical. An Indian immigrant family complains to their landlord about mold and cockroaches in their unit. The landlord tells them to just deal with it and threatens to call ICE if they file a complaint in housing court, reads another. Now that isn't... I would argue that that particular example wasn't done out of hate. It wasn't meant to demean. It wasn't attempted to dehumaniate, to humiliate or offend. It was attempted bribery, coercion. Well, you know what I mean. I mean, yes, it's not. I mean, those are illegal too, but it doesn't fall under this. A store owner tells two friends who are speaking Thai while shopping in his store to speak English and go back to your country, with third. So you can't even say that now. You can't even say go back to your country. The Commission on Human Rights made clear that the directive is, at least in part, a rebuke of federal crackdowns on illegal immigration. So this was done in retaliation of what the laws were coming. In the face of increasingly hostile national rhetoric, we will do everything in our power to make sure treasured immigrant communities are able to live with dignity and respect, free of harassment and bias, said, that person. So my main problem is with this particular law is how can you prove a feeling? Like, if, say, the shopkeeper comes into my court, I'm sitting as the judge, I have no idea who he is. And how do I know that he's not just having a bad day and he wanted them to speak English who can understand what they're asking for and he doesn't understand Thai? How can you say it was spoken out of hate? And because it's used in hate, does that mean that they could attach the hate crime bill to it? I mean, it's hate speech, hate crime, so it's not totally unfeasible. They can't attach the hate statute on top of this. The second, well, the contradictory thing of this, and this is the other half that was brought up, is that the the Supreme Court confirmed in 2017, June 19th, that there is no exception to hate speech to the First Amendment. So anything said out of hate is protected under First Amendment rights of free speech. It's not against the law to say stuff. It's different from saying threatening to do harm. Like if you add necessary and proper for the if someone puts threatening marks that they're going to kill someone on chat, that is a felony because it's threatening to kill someone. It's life threatening. It's not hate speech. But saying, I mean, if you don't hate, I mean, basically everything that Trump has been saying in his recent tweets about everything that's going on. I even said that it's protected. Let me profile. Okay. You may know recently Kamala said Trump's account should be suspended, and I agreed with that. I said anyone else who isn't Trump would have been reported and banned. Threatening to kill someone is a felony, even if it's implied or meant as a joke. Trump tweets violates your TOS by any measure. Both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, in my view, are trying to protect the platform as well as the media because it's dangerous. Biden's team asked media producers not to let Giuliani on the air. The office of the president has its own separate Twitter account, which Trump doesn't use. The one he is using is his own personal account. Even if he did change the email that's associated with it, Twitter is being like France, in my opinion. Its head is stuck in the ground, not doing anything, and they won't until they themselves get attacked. Then suddenly it's a crime of mass production. Basically, Twitter is not going to do anything until they get implicated or there's clear evidence that Trump threatened or said something in a tweet, and because of that tweet someone went out and did it. Then Twitter is just as much responsible as Trump, and they would have blood on their hands. And Twitter isn't going to do anything about this until that actually happens, and that's what I'm trying to prevent. Until they get attacked. Twitter is being like France, sticking its head in the ground, not doing anything, and they won't. Not until they themselves get attacked, then suddenly it's a crime of mass proportions, and something must be done. The time to do something is now, before someone gets hurt or killed, not after. Prevention is better than cure. Trump will have blood on his hands if the whistleblower gets hurt, and Twitter will be an accomplice. You had the means to stop his rhetoric and choose to do nothing and stand by. Hate speech may be protected under the First Amendment, however, you still can't say, suggest, imply to have someone hurt. You have a responsibility to protect your audience, yourself from harm. You stop people from being indoctrinated from ISIS, but you don't stop Trump indoctrinating people. It's the same thing. It's just coming from the White House instead of Syria. It's a double standard. I mean, I don't know if anyone else agrees with that. I mean, I haven't gotten too many likes on that, so perhaps not. But regardless, his hate speech is protected under the First Amendment, but the implications in implying that someone should go, or the whistleblower is a wanton snitch, it all ties back into this. It's a law about a feeling, and there is nothing in the Constitution that says feeling hate or having any feelings is against the law. In principle, I like what the law is trying to do. I agree with that you shouldn't say those things. It's not nice. But I disagree with the way that they're trying to enforce and protect. And I think if anyone gets charged with this, they're gonna be worried that they're not gonna attach the hate crimes bill to it. I mean, if they're being charged with hate speech, why isn't it a hate crime as well? I mean, I think that's why they're making it. That's why they use the word hate, so they could get around it not being constitutional by saying it's constitution because it's a hate crime, and they would try to attach the saying hateful things to the hate crime. But other than that, I mean, you can't say it's necessary and proper. They're just doing it because they don't like the supremacy law, the supreme law, the federal law right now. So that is the case or the two cases that's going on, and with the recent events, it's like if a state or anyone is allowed to start arresting people and finding people for what you feel, then that's wrong. I think that is entirely wrong. I mean, no one else is going to know how you personally feel. No one can tell me how I feel. I know how I feel. You know how you feel. So you're going to sit there and have 12 random strangers tell you how you feel and decide how you felt when you were all mad and emotional? Half the time I feel multiple things at multiple times. So how can you have a law that's based on a feeling? And you've got to be able to prove that it was said out of hatred, not ignorance, and not just fear. It's a very scrappy, messy law, and I think the very first person ever to get charged with this or attempted to find with this, they're gonna challenge this law. The lawyers are gonna let's take this all the way to the Supreme Court or the state Supreme Court, because I really don't think that this law has a leg to stand on. It's not constitutional, and I'm not a Supreme Judge, but it's a Supreme Justice, but I honestly don't see how this particular law in the New York Post, coming from the state of New York, is legal. From what I found out and from what I can find, it's not, and the using the Supreme Court case from 2017 as precedent, then that would say that this particular law from New York is illegal and unconstitutional, so it's void. But I'm not a judge, but you get to be a judge. I'm gonna put the links to both those articles in the comments below when this video gets sent over to YouTube. I will put it in there. Maybe I'll tag Eagle Legal and see if he does a response to this, because it's a really interesting. I would be rather. I mean, besides my own professor, I mean, I'm going to ask him on tomorrow actually, but I don't know. It's a weird law, and for whatever reason, this particular case just won't stop bugging me since Monday, and it's like, if just think about it, if the state that you're in can come for you, for what you're feeling, for your own thoughts. I mean, there's nowhere in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that they can arrest you for what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And how do you prove a feeling? How do you prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that person said something out of hate and not fear and not ignorance, or all of those things that above? And if it was said out of hate, how is it not a hate crime? And is that how they can get around it not being constitutional, by attaching it to something that is constitutional just because of the name? Okay, well, that's my ponderings for the night. I don't know if this is going to be a regular thing or not, but I wanted to try it and see. Alright, adios. I'll see if we get any comments.